Hello and welcome back to today's video. We have a new and refreshing view for today. We're still in Guam, which is the southernmost tip in a group of islands called the Marianas Islands. You may have heard of the Marianas Trench. The islands in this trench collectively are called the Marianas Islands, and they are situated in the Pacific Ocean, the southernmost of these islands being Guam. Guam is just a 2-hour flight away from the Philippines, where I come from, and 3 hours from Japan, which is why Guam is also a popular tourist destination among the Japanese. It's said that 70% of the tourists here are East Asian. The majority, 60% of which are Japanese, 30% are from the Philippines, and the remaining 10% are of other nationalities. Our quick topic for today is how lack of sleep can kill you, can kill us in all planes of existence. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and perhaps in other spheres as well. The inspiration for our topic today is a quick interview I saw of Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson is an American billionaire. He founded his fortune in information technology, but pretty soon after amassing his billions, he devoted his money, his time and energy in anti-aging and longevity studies. Studies in which he himself volunteered to be the human guinea pig. But he's not a doctor, he's not from the health or medical field. But it's good that he's using his vast resources to expand what we know of about aging and longevity. And in one of his recent interviews, Brian Johnson mentioned that one of his recent studies affirmed something which we actually already know from decades now, perhaps even centuries, even before the advent of modern medicine. That sleep is an essential component of human existence. Now, there's no formal or universal definition of sleep deprivation, but generally, sleep deprivation is quantitatively and loosely defined as having less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep per 24-hour cycle. Less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep in a 24-hour cycle in a day. And sleep, having good quality sleep, cannot be emphasized enough in preserving our physical, our mental, and emotional health. Unfortunately, a recent study by the American Sleep Association, published last year in June 2024, revealed that 72% of adults living in the United States across different occupations and different ages, 72% are considered sleep deprived. And more importantly, this study found that sleep deprivation is statistically significantly correlated, meaning it's significantly associated with increased suicidal ideations, increased risk for depression, increased risk for cardiovascular diseases of the heart, and increased risk for cerebrovascular diseases, stroke, and other kinds of diseases which can affect the brain. Everybody knows that having enough and good quality sleep is essential. But often, we just do so in lip service. Only a few people really live out and imbibe just how important sleep is. For example, in the industry where I trained and where I currently work in, the medical field, we doctors train to be able to make our patients healthy, and we are trained to teach them how to properly live out healthy lifestyles. But we, ourselves as doctors, usually have the exact same opposite kind of lifestyle. When we are still in our training days, we call that clerkship, internship, and for those of us who pursued specialty training, that's called residency and fellowship, we usually run 24 to 36 hours straight duties. That means for 24 to 36 hours straight, we just keep on working. We just keep on working, and we're not expected to sleep. We can squeeze in a 30-minute nap or a 1-hour nap if we can, if there's a luxury of time to do so. But otherwise, the expectation in such a training, such a duty, is you don't sleep at all. You just work for 24 to 36 hours straight. I believe this practice has already been abolished, or at least modified significantly in most Western countries. But in the Philippines, where I hail from, it's still the current practice in medical training. There are still these 24, 36 hour. In fact, some surgical specialties, they have 48 and perhaps more duty cycles. You don't sleep for at least 2 days straight. Because if you do, your seniors and your consultants, those are the really senior doctors, they'll brand you as lazy and they'll brand you as soft if you rest and if you can take the long hours of duty and training. And unsurprisingly, it's not a local study because the culture of research in the country where I come from is not very solid. But there's a study from the American, again, from the United States, the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, which found that, this is in 2023 this time, up to 58% of medical trainees have clinically diagnosable depression and anxiety disorders. More than half of medical trainees in the United States have clinically diagnosable depression and anxiety disorders. And we, in the medical field, upon hearing that, like to pretend, and we pretend to be shocked at such a finding, knowing fully well that perhaps the quality of our training and the lifestyles we led somehow led to such high rates of psychiatric conditions. And moving outside our small sphere, moving outside the medical field, it has also been established that individuals working in night shifts, those working in the business processing, outsourcing, the BPO industry. My country, for example, is pretty heavy on that industry, the BPO industry, where individuals are usually working odd hours. Their shift usually starts in the evening, for example, around 10 p.m. and it will end around 4 a.m., 6 a.m. because their clients are in other countries. There are numerous other studies which found that these individuals, compared to those who work day shifts and those who are able to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, they have higher risks for cardiovascular, cerebrovascular, and even malignant diseases, cancer, increased risk for cancer. Oftentimes, we like to pay our attention on all these novel drugs, all these high-tech stuff, these new advancements in technological medical care. But in the process, we already forget the importance of the fundamentals. Having good quality and having enough sleep, eating well, having enough exercise, the fundamentals, which are actually free. But usually, nobody likes to pay attention to free things, right? And to hard things. It's easier to just pay attention to all these new devices, to these new drugs, to these high-tech medical machines, because that's where the money is. That's where big pharma and the big industry players pour their money into. Nobody likes to pay attention to the guy saying to get enough sleep, to eat healthy. Who does that, right? So there. I'm not sure if our lifestyles will change, if our sleeping habits will change after hearing this video. But if it does, I hope we all remember that hopefully we get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep per day. Good quality and sufficient sleep weighs more than the temporary dopamine release an additional episode in that TV series can bring us. It's much more valuable in the long run. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you again in our next video. Bye. Thank you.